afternoon. Thank you for joining the Oregon Employment Department for the monthly media briefing. Again, my name is Rebecca Gibson King. I'm the Communications Director here at OED. And today's speakers are Gail Krummenauer, State Employment Economist, Oregon Employment Department Director David Gerstenfeld, Paid Leave Oregon Director Karen Madden-Hummelbaugh, and Unemployment Insurance Director Lindsay Leahy. I would also like to take this moment to introduce you virtually to Jack Patterson, who is our new communications officer for Paid Leave Oregon. He's taking the role over from Angela Yeager. So if you're interested in meeting him, would love to do an introduction. A couple of quick notes. This call is being recorded and we will post the recording on our website after the briefing. We will also mail out the link to anybody who RSVP'd for this briefing. We will take questions after opening remarks. And as always, if you don't get your questions answered today, or if you ever need anything from us at OED, please feel free to email us at communications@employ.oregon.gov, and we will be happy to assist you. I will now turn it over to Gail Krummenauer, State Employment Economist. Go ahead, Gail.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon. Today, the Employment Department released the jobs numbers and unemployment rate for Oregon in May. Oregon employers added 4,000 jobs to non-farm payrolls in May. Private healthcare and social assistance led the way again, adding 1,900 jobs over the month. We also saw a gain of 1,000 jobs in leisure and hospitality. Over the past year, Oregon added 12,600 jobs. That's a growth rate of 0.6%, and that's relatively slow job growth. In addition to slow gains, we've also seen that job gains have been concentrated into just a couple of areas of Oregon's economy. Private healthcare and social assistance added 16,200 jobs over the past year, and that was a growth rate of nearly 6%. Government added 9,100 jobs, which was a gain of 3%. Now, that's much higher when you combine it than the overall number I said we've added, and that is because at the same time, we've seen that several sectors of Oregon's economy had notable job declines over the past year. Manufacturing is among them. Oregon's manufacturers lost 3,700 jobs over the past year. That's a decline of nearly 2%. Construction employment fell by 2,200 jobs, which is also a decline of nearly 2%. And retail trade lost 3,400 jobs over the year, which was a decline of 1.6%. Oregon's unemployment rate was 4.2% in May. That was the fourth consecutive month with the rate at 4.2%. It was also pretty close to the US rate of 4.0% in May. The size of Oregon's labor force and Oregon's labor force participation rate are both still trending upward slowly. The share of Oregonians ages 16 and older who are participating in the labor force, meaning they're either employed or they are actively seeking work and available and able to take a job, so not in active military, not in an institution, that share, that labor force participation share grew to 63% in May, and that was the highest it's been since September of 2012. So overall, what we're seeing in Oregon is slow job growth, with healthcare really carrying the economy, and the unemployment rate remaining relatively low and stable in recent months. And with that, I'll pass it on to Director David Gerstenfeld for more comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking Oregonians for their patience and understanding as we rolled out another major technology upgrade with Francis Online for unemployment insurance benefits this spring. We especially appreciate the support and partnership of our customers, the public, the legislature, and the governor over the past 2.5 weeks as we changed our regular phone hours and temporarily closed support phone lines on Mondays for the unemployment insurance, Paid Leave Oregon, and contributions and recovery programs. We took this latest bold measure to give our trained employees more time to do the work needed to resolve claims, to do the things we know Oregonians need us to do and that they call us about. Since the expiration of pandemic-era funding in 2022 forced us to cut 2/3 of our unemployment insurance staff, we've not had enough employees to keep up with the workload in unemployment insurance in particular. We do have more unemployment insurance employees being hired and trained, which will help beginning in mid to late August. But we couldn't afford to wait until then to make significant progress, especially with resolving claim issues for people who have been waiting the longest. By giving our employees more time to resolve older claim issues in the short term, We also hope to set ourselves up for long-term success by getting to a place where we have enough staff to handle the workload as it comes in without creating more delays. This is critical to elevating our customer service to the level Oregonians expect and to do it in a sustainable way. Simply put, we need to make as much progress as possible as quickly as we can while we're hiring and training our new employees. We're very encouraged by the early results, and I'm proud of the work our team is putting in. I'll start with some highlights before handing off to Unemployment Insurance Director Lindsay Leahy and Paid Leave Oregon Director Karen Madden-Hummelbaugh to share some more details about their programs. In paid leave, we increased the average number of issues resolved during our first 2 Focus Mondays by more than 60%, going from about 1,300 to more than 2,000 in a day. We also tripled the number of electronic messages paid leave responds to on Mondays, going from roughly 1,400 to 4,200. When we announced our phone hour changes, we set an interim goal of reducing the number of unemployment insurance claim issues that were 6 weeks or older by 80%. At that time, we had about 13,500 issues in that category. We've resolved many thousands of issues and have made real progress. In the interest of transparency, we want to share where we are, and that number is now about 10,200. But importantly, we've also been able to use Francis to focus our work in ways that we couldn't before. That's why instead of looking at all claim issues that are 6 weeks old or more, some of which were holding up payments for people, but some of which weren't, we can now focus our efforts on those issues that are actually impacting people. This is a better way of helping people who are seeking our assistance and of sharing with the public how we're doing. So we're going to focus our work and our reporting on the issues that are actually impacting people's benefit payments. Right now, there are about 8,200 total issues that are holding up 1 or more weeks of potential benefit payments. As we've shared, many people have more than one issue impacting their unemployment insurance claim, so this is fewer than 8,200 people. And of those 8,200 issues, about 1,600 are 6 weeks or older, and about 3,200 are 3 weeks or older. Our long-term goal is that when an issue impacts somebody's potential benefit payments, we resolve it within 3 weeks, at least 80% of the time. About 5,000 of these issues that are impacting potential benefits are less than 3 weeks old, so our current rate is about 60%. We're encouraged by the customer service progress we've made on our claims focus days in unemployment insurance, paid leave Oregon, and contributions and recovery. And we want to put ourselves in the best position to build on the progress we've made and sustain long-term success once we have our new staff hired and trained. We know we'll see a temporary increase in our workload that we see each year as we enter the new fiscal year starting July 1st. In short, the change in our phone hours is working to help us get caught up on our workload. The extra time is allowing us to resolve the very issues that people are calling us about. All 3 programs have made great progress and will be able to provide better customer service because of it. And with that, I'm going to hand it over now to Unemployment Insurance Director Lindsay Leahy.
Thank you, David. As of Sunday, June 16th, we have completed 15 weeks of unemployment insurance benefits in Francis Online. In that time, we have distributed over $213 million to our customers. As David mentioned, with the changes to our phone hours and the temporary inbound call closures on Mondays, we've made encouraging progress on claim issues holding payment for our customers. And we've also seen promising boosts in productivity in several other areas. For example, our resolution of benefit issues that require adjudication has increased on average by 144% on Mondays. Resolution of some types of non-adjudication benefit issues, meanwhile, have risen over 275% on average. One of our top priorities is responding to electronic messages. And over the course of the past 3 weeks, we have nearly tripled the average number of responses, jumping from about 500 on a typical Monday to just under 1,500. We've also been able to resolve over 3 times as many appeal requests on Mondays, jumping from roughly 60 to over 200 on average. We're also making steady progress with our hiring push. As of this week, we have 433 employees in the unemployment insurance program, and we are on track to reach the expected staffing level of 476. I'm extremely proud of the work our team has been doing, and I'm confident we're moving in the right direction. With that, I'll hand things over to Karen Madden-Hummelbaugh for an update on Paid Leave Oregon.
Thanks, Lindsay. At Paid Leave Oregon, we're making great strides as well. There's still work to do, but the progress we have made processing claims and improving customer service is significant and encouraging. Since May 31st, we have reduced the total number of open claims by nearly 29%. This means we went from just over 20,000 claims that were open to 14,377 as of last Friday. We're also seeing progress in other important measures of our customer service. We've increased the number of outbound calls we make on a weekly basis and increased the number of electronic messages we respond to. We went from an average of 1,410 electronic messages answered on Mondays to 4,285, which is a 204% increase. So simply put, Focus Mondays have allowed us to close more claims more quickly. Beyond Focus Mondays, we have also continued our hiring surge. Since May, we've onboarded 23 new team members to help process applications. These folks are wrapping up their 8-week training and are beginning to answer calls and process claims with a July 8th start date for their full-time status, providing customer care. 33 new team members will be onboarding in July, going through training, and then assisting on phones and claims processing by the end of August. In addition to the progress we've made processing claims, Paid Leave Oregon has also been preparing to implement important program changes passed during the last legislative session. In March, the governor signed Senate Bill 1515, which will go into effect on July 1st. Senate Bill 1515 changes how Paid Leave Oregon benefits interact with the Oregon Family Leave Act, which is commonly known as OFLA. It also changes how it interacts with workers' compensation and employer-provided paid time off. The Oregon Family Leave Act is the legal framework for job protections for Oregonians, and it allows workers to take leave from their jobs to care for themselves and their family members, but it is often unpaid. While both paid leave and OFLA provide job protections, Paid Leave Oregon also provides payment of benefits when employees take a qualifying leave. So one of the main goals of Senate Bill 1515 was to remove duplication and potential conflicts between Paid Leave Oregon and OFLA. It also removed certain leave types from OFLA that paid leave now covers. OFLA benefits for unpaid protected leave will no longer include bonding leave and leave for serious health conditions for employees and their family members, as those events are now covered by Paid Leave Oregon. It's important to note that employees who are currently on OFLA for those reasons that are now covered by paid leave will need to apply for paid leave benefits in order to continue their protected leave after July 1st. Workers can do this on Francis Online if they are covered by the state's paid leave plan or through their employer's equivalent plan. While employees have always been able to use their own PTO in addition to paid leave benefits, Senate Bill 1515 allows employees to make this decision for themselves, up to 100% of their current wages, versus it being an employer-driven decision. Additionally, employees can now use most workers' compensation benefits at the same time as their paid leave benefits. In summary, Senate Bill 1515 further clarified how different kinds of leave benefits interact, making it easier for both workers and businesses to understand and use paid leave benefits. You can read more about Senate Bill 1515 changes on our website, which is at paidleave.oregon.gov, and we will continue posting additional resources by that July 1st start. Now I'd like to hand it back to Rebecca Gibson-King for the Q&A portion of the briefing.
Thanks, Karen. So now we're going to open lines to members of the media to ask questions. Unemployment insurance, oh, sorry. You can ask questions of any of the panelists. Just please tell us to whom you're addressing your question. If you're joining us by phone, please make sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. And as a courtesy, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up question. And as always, if you don't get your questions answered today, please email us at communications@employ.oregon.gov. And the first person to have their hand raised is Christina Giarnelli with K2. Let me unmute you. There you go. Go ahead, Christina.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, just wondering what your call volumes and wait times have looked like since transitioning to the new hours.
Christina, it's a great question. I can give a high-level answer and then defer to Karen or Lindsay if they have more specifics. We've been watching that pretty closely. In paid leave, we've actually seen a decrease a little bit in the wait times, and we think that that's a reflection that they've made a lot of progress to get caught up. So there are fewer people needing to call in, which is kind of exactly what we were aiming to do with this effort. In unemployment insurance, there hasn't been that improvement yet. And we think that's just because there were more people with claims waiting. So there's essentially a little bit more catching up that we need to do before we start to see the wait times improve. The total number of calls that we're answering, it fluctuates a little bit, particularly in weeks like this week when there's also a holiday. It's a little bit less because we don't have the phones open as many hours. But importantly, we're able to respond. I think you heard both Karen and Lindsay talk about how many more of those electronic messages we're responding to. So we're actually communicating with a lot more people than we were before we made this temporary change.
And then in terms of benefits paid out this week versus previously with the other phone line hours?
Sure, I don't have those dollars right in front of me. We do have a dashboard that we post weekly. And we're seeing a little bit of an increase in those benefit amounts that, again, we think reflects the progress that we're making, not just paying the current weekly benefits that are being claimed, but getting more timely with some of the benefits out to people who have been having to wait a little bit longer than we want.
And last question, do you have any data on the amount of hours that your employees are spending doing outbound calls during those days when they don't take inbound calls?
I don't have that off the top of my head, and I don't know if we can parse it out. There's a lot of outgoing communication, whether it's through those electronic messages or the outgoing calls, but I don't have the hours specifically doing outgoing phone calls.
Hey,
Is
Christina,
that something that you'll be able to obtain in the future? I mean, I know people like to get that phone call. They like to have that back and forth where they can actually get clarification on their claims that sometimes those messages don't provide.
Hey, Christina, this is Rebecca. I think that's a really good question. I don't know exactly how we'll be able to do it, but let me get back to you after we look into what we can do.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, next up is Kyra Buckley. Kyra, I think I just clicked the button. Then go ahead when you're ready. We're not hearing you, Kyra. I'm so sorry. Unmute you once again. Try it now.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go.
Oh, thank you
Yes.
for your patience. I was about to type in my question when a colleague came to my rescue. All right. Thank you all so much for being here the day after a holiday and taking our questions. I just want to get a little bit more clarity, David, around some of the numbers you mentioned around issues. Now, I know you mentioned that these are issues not representative of the amount of people that that are going through this. I am wondering though if we have a sense of how many folks are still in that adjudication process where it's taking 6 weeks or longer. I'm wondering if you have that data. And then I guess on this line, my follow-up would be, is it trending in the direction that you're hoping?
Great questions, Kyra. I don't have the exact number in front of me for that. And I'll clarify, when we talk about the people that are waiting over 6 weeks in this, the more refined way that we're able to look at the data, it's people that are in the formal adjudication process and people that have other things going on with their claim. So we know that for people that are over 6 weeks, that it's 1,600 issues. It's fewer than 1,600 people. I don't have that exact count here. We can follow up if we're able to get that pretty readily converted to the number of people that are being impacted. But we do think that we're making progress and that we're moving in the right direction, both with the extra hours and that extra focus that we're able to do of working through things.
Awesome. And I know that this is early, so I'll ask again next month, but any thoughts about when you may reopen the phone lines on Mondays, or do you have a plan of maybe the date that you guys will reevaluate whether you're going to reopen on Mondays?
Sure, we're looking at that pretty much all the time. We've been looking at the data regularly. We don't have a definite date now because, as you pointed out, it's too early. And what we're really focused on is making sure that we get to good customer service and that we can sustain it. We know that we almost always get an increase of claims in unemployment insurance right around the first of the fiscal year for various reasons. So we want to make sure that we're in a really good position to maintain the progress that we've made and keep making progress through that. So it's not likely that it will be before we switch over into the next fiscal year, but we're going to be watching real closely. And as we get more confident that we're building momentum of getting caught up, we'll share that with the public as quickly as we can.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, up next is Evan Watson. Evan, I am allowing you to talk right now. Please go ahead.
Checking, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Thank you all again for taking our questions today. This will be a question for, I suppose, either David or Lindsay. Looking at Department of Labor data since April 1st, Oregon's rate for first-time unemployment benefit payments within 3 weeks has fallen to just around 40%. That's the lowest rate for Oregon since the height of the pandemic unemployment in 2020 and one of the lowest in the country. Of course, this somewhat coincides with the Francis Online rollout and response. My question ultimately for you all is, what would you say is the reason or the reasons for these delays in payments within 3 weeks, and how do you plan to improve payment timeliness?
Great questions. And I think you hit upon some of the reasons. It was the lead up to the go live with the new system. And every state that has gone live with the new system sees that temporary decrease in productivity. We did what we could with hiring some additional temporary staff. And of course, now we're doing all kinds of things that we've been talking about, key being hiring additional staff that we recently received legislative funding approval for. And that is actively underway. You heard Lindsay talking about that. A number of process changes. Our staff have gained proficiency, so we are seeing efficiencies and we're getting through the work more quickly. The other thing that I'll point out when you're looking at that federal data, the federal metrics aren't always the best way. They're kind of a broad measure. And when you start to see the numbers go lower, it can either mean that we're falling behind, or it can actually mean that we're getting caught up on a backlog. So that's why we're really trying to focus on measurements that we think are more meaningful to what people experience. The federal measure only looks at things after the work is done. And what we're doing is we're taking that picture of the issues that are out there right now that are impacting real people, how many of them are over 3 weeks or 6 weeks. And that's what we're really focused on. We think as we continue to report on that, you'll be able to see the trend and that we hopefully are continuing to make progress getting people their benefits more quickly.
So thank you for that. And just to clarify on that kind of second point you made there. So you saying that the federal data and the drop off there is because some of those claims with longer issues over weeks or months, those are being resolved now, and that's impacting the data, the timeliness of 3 weeks. And if I am understanding you correctly, do you have a sense of how many of those are from a backlog, or how many of those are from since April 1st to June now, new claims that have been waiting for payment?
So Evan, you are understanding some of that represents that we were behind. And if you're looking at data from immediately after we went live with the new system, that probably did represent that we were very significantly understaffed and everybody was learning the new system and gaining proficiency. We do believe that we're gaining ground and making progress. That will continue to look like late work being done in those federal metrics. And rather than trying to go through those federal measures, which are pretty strictly defined of how they want things looked at, we really are looking at that other measurement that I talked about of the issues that are still outstanding now. How many of them are more than 3 weeks or more than 6 weeks? Our goal, as I said, is to get to over 80% of those being resolved within 3 weeks. We're at about 60% right now, and we think that we'll continue to make progress on that.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you so much. I do not see any other hands raised. I'm just going to give it one more check. And we are good. So I am going to draw us to a close. Thank you so much for everybody who participated. As a reminder, we will be posting the recording of this meeting on our website and sending out the link as soon as we can. And and thank you all for helping us report out and share the important information about the services that we provide to the citizens of Oregon. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.